Hi, I'm Kernisha Dolly.
And hi, I'm Neesha Ramdhan. And this is our OMG interview.
Well, what we first started off as was a modeling agency. Our modeling agency, it's a far bit different from other agencies in Trinidad, I should say, solely because we don't just focus on able-bodied people, we also focus on disabled people as well, such as people who are living with muscular dystrophy. So apart from just teaching the basics like walking, how to pose for photos, etc., we also help a person develop themselves. What is the word I'm looking for?
Okay, what we're trying to do basically is to help everyone embrace themselves and love who they are. So we're not just encouraging people to believe that being a model means you have to be a certain height or a certain size, but it goes for all age, all gender, all sizes of women and men in particular. And what we're trying to do now, we're taking a new turn into encouraging the disabled or differently able people on board.
Yeah, basically.
Well, for example, at one of our practice sessions, we were encouraging the models to embrace themselves, to be themselves. So
Sorry,
that's okay.
But for example, we had two of the models who currently has disabilities, such as like scoliosis. We had one of them who recently underwent surgery for scoliosis.
Yes.
When she had first came to us, she was a bit shy and not that confident. But being as to what we teach and how we implement a lot of other things with our agency, such as like teaching a person not because they look different from what society perceives to be normal doesn't mean that you are not beautiful. It takes me back to my three brothers who passed away with a disorder that is called muscular dystrophy. Having to grow up and see the challenges that they face, it was not just difficult for me but also difficult for my mom, because I mean she's the person who actually lost all three of them to the disorder, and seeing how they basically thought that because they looked a different way, they were not basically, I should say, acceptable, or if they go out, they are not sure how people would respond to the way they look, or the fact that they can't walk and do certain things for themselves. So this is basically my way of actually showing people who are differently able that you can do more things than just being on a wheelchair.
That's right.
The idea came to me about 2 years ago. That's the idea where I can probably use the fact that I do partake in a lot of stuff where the fashion industry is, and I can also take that and incorporate other aspects such as like my NGO raising awareness for muscular dystrophy.
Yeah.
And make it into something different, I should say.
So basically what we're trying to do is make a difference by using the fashion industry and incorporating it into encouraging people who are differently able to come out, to show themselves, to be brave. And we're also running an NGO where we try to raise funds and give aid to those in need of treatment or wheelchairs, or whether the case may be, a little help. Yeah, so we're basically trying to reach out for those who need help and for those who'd like to raise awareness for the cause.
Exactly. It was extremely difficult because, at that time my mom had 4 of us. So it was myself, the only girl, and 3 brothers who basically could not have done anything to help themselves. And I used to still say that my mother is basically my inspiration, because seeing her having to go through taking care of 3 disabled boys on her own, When I say on her own, I mean that she was a single parent at that time, trying to do the best that she can. Basically, she was unable to do things such as like go to work. She didn't know who to leave them with, because there aren't a lot of people who know how to deal with someone who has a disability. What I can remember from that time is seeing my first brother, who passed away when he spent a year in the hospital. Doctors at that time had no idea what was wrong with him. They couldn't give us any answers, and he was there basically suffering, for lack of better words.
How old?
He was first diagnosed with muscular dystrophy when he was at the age of 8 years old. Around that time, he started showing signs where he couldn't walk properly. He was unable to run, he was unable to jump, he was unable to climb. But he was highly intelligent. It started getting a little more difficult for him when he was around the age of, let's say, 12 years old. That's when it started getting extremely difficult. And seeing him in the hospital at that time, it was difficult for me to actually watch, because that is one of my brothers who I actually I was extremely close to, because my mother brought all of us up to be close with one another and have like a different connection. And to see him actually go through that, and I remember one time he was telling me while he was in the hospital, he says, I don't think I can do this anymore. I'm tired. And till this day, that's actually one of the things that plays back in my head over and over again. And I asked him, I was like, what do you mean you're tired? And then he went on to explain how he felt. And seeing him laying there and explaining to me how he felt not being able to do the things that other children his age was able to do, not being able to actually help do certain things, he felt more or less useless. And I remembered me telling him, well, you're not useless, you're probably here for a purpose. And we were having like a brother and sister conversation. He passed away 2 weeks after his 14th birthday. His birthday was on the 24th of April. And he passed away in the hospital. What happened is that he eventually developed respiratory ailment, which stemmed from the muscular dystrophy as well. So after spending a year in the hospital, basically being treated as a guinea pig because no one knew what the ailment was, I was at 14 years old and I had to explain at that time to a doctor what muscular dystrophy is, and that is what my brother has. And I remembered, funny enough, the doctor basically had to Google muscular dystrophy because he had no idea what it was. When my brother passed, it was difficult. It was a difficult thing because I felt as though I lost another part of me in that moment. That was the first time I ever experienced anything associated to death. Thinking that because of how he passed, it would have got me ready mentally for the passing of my other two brothers, and honestly it actually didn't. And the only thing, again, I have to stress on is the fact of how my mother kept so strong and she held her own. That is sitting and looking at her and seeing that she's not breaking down, because she knows that she has like other children that she has to be strong for, and for them not to see her in a position where she's weak. And this is what I'm saying is exactly her words. She didn't want to appear to be weak. So she held her own and is still holding her own, despite the fact that I have another brother who was recently diagnosed with the disorder. So all of this is actually what gave me basically the encouragement and the strength to actually pursue, I should say, the vision that I'm pursuing right now. And within that is how I actually met Neesha. That is how I actually met Neesha.
Well, I have to say, at heart, I'm an empath. I feel other people's pain. Apart from that, Kernisha has been a good friend of mine. But what touched me and gave me the drive is that visit to your home. Last year, I visited her home, and I got an opportunity to meet and interact with one of her little brothers who is a patient of muscular dystrophy. And it was so sad to see my kids running around with her other siblings and playing, and he was at the porch looking on, and he was dragging, and he wanted to go out there and play with him, but he couldn't. He had to restrain himself. And to know that there are people out there who is unaware of this genetic disorder, I think that we should raise a voice and come out and let them know that, hey, this does exist and there are kids out there who is suffering from it. So my message though is like to appreciate who you are and don't complain, because at the end of the day there is someone out there who's worse off. There is someone who can, to put it in a nutshell, you're blessed with good health. We can walk, we can talk. That's good enough, because there are children out there who can wish they can do those things. And because of this little illness, they are deprived of so much. So it really did touch me and it inspired me. And that is why I became her partner and a stronghold as the go-getter to get things done.
As Neesha touched on the fact that some of us complain, that is actually true.
Yes.
Because so many of us find ourselves getting up in the morning and being blessed with the opportunity to walk, to actually walk, to speak, because muscular dystrophy is a thing where it attacks all of your muscles. And some of them even reach the stage where they're basically bedridden. They lose the ability to speak, they lose the ability to hear. Some of them are unable to see, some of them are unable to move at all. So basically, I hate to say it, but for lack of better words, a vegetable. I had a brother who was like that. And he couldn't do anything for himself. He lost all his bowel functions and everything. And to get up in the morning and know to yourself that you are blessed every day and complain about little things, I see it to be being a bit selfish.
That's right.
Because you're able to speak, you have a voice. Some people don't. You're able to walk, some people cannot. Yes. You're able to go from point A to point B without anyone's assistance. There are some of us who are unable to do so. There are some of us, like my brother who passed away, who are basically suffering, laying in one spot and unable to move unless someone comes to move you. You have to basically ask to be moved or ask to be shifted to another position.
That's right. That is why, on that note, I would like to touch back on the fashion aspect of it. This is one of the reasons why we encourage all genders, all size, all shapes of people to come on board and embrace yourself, love yourself, don't complain. It's the same thing. You wake up every morning, we find flaws among ourselves, we complain about ourselves. But what about those who may not be as lucky? So what we're trying to do is encourage everyone to love yourself for who you are, right? We were born different for a reason, but everybody is special in their own way. And by saying that, it's one. I recall we were teaching the models; they were actually complaining about themselves, And I remember we were in a training session with them and I was telling them, hey, listen, you're lucky that you're here, right? And we also had plus size models who were a bit insecure about themselves. They were afraid to walk down the stairs and all that. And I'm like, no, you're beautiful. You're more, you know how to say, more to love. You're easily to be, you're easy to embrace. Embrace yourself, embrace your inner beauty. So what I told them to do is that when they come out on the stage, unlike other modeling agencies where you have a role, you act like a canvas.
You basically be yourself, so you put yourself.
We want them to be themselves. So every time they come out onto the stage, I would tell them, go home, practice your signature move that says you, right? So when you go out on the stage, you're working, you're owning that stage, you're owning the runway, you're showing yourself, your inner beauty, your personality. So it's all about appreciating and embracing yourself.
Yeah, so for anyone that is interested in helping us and also coming on board, you can contact us at phone numbers 318-8049 or 313-3103 or
738-0230.
Or you can go to our business page on Facebook. Find us on Facebook at K Models Training School.
Yeah.
Nice.
My OMG moment takes me back to last year.
At our very first fashion
At
show.
our very first fashion show. This fashion show was in aid of cancer. We were raising funds for a friend of mine, Natalia Lee. How the entire thing took place was where I actually thought that, okay, this is not gonna happen and maybe I should just leave it alone and
that's where I would
again
step
the
in
next
and have to
time.
be her motivator and push her forward and be like, Kernisha, no, you can't do this.
Actually seeing everything that I envisioned coming to life at that particular time, that was like one of my OMG moments, because it only hit me when I went out on the runway to basically address our audience, and I stood there in shock and I was like, oh my god, this is happening. I started crying.
I remembered. Yes,
I was
I don't know.
punk. I cried throughout the entire speech. I don't think anyone remembered what I was saying.
No, I just
All they
remembered
remember what it is.
the vote of thanks, and then she was like, I'd like to thank my business partner, Neesha. And she started crying almost immediately and had to console her on the stage.
So that was my OMG moment.
Yeah.
Oh, that could go for the both of you then.
Yeah.
Right,
Well, our OMG moment.
No, my OMG moment was basically on that same day of the show. I was basically prepared to just host because I was expecting. I was about 4 to 5 months along in the pregnancy.
No, you wasn't.
Somewhere around there.
You were as big as me. You were about 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, so I had just expected to host, and when I stepped backstage, they were doing the evening wear segments, and one of the designers came up to me and he was like, you need to strip down and get into this gown. So I was like, why am I? He's like, because you're going to do this maternity wear and it's this fabulous gown. So when they dressed me and I actually reached onto the stage, I was like, oh my god, this is happening. I'm waking this tummy, I'm waking my baby. So that was actually my first moment.
I think that was another moment for me as well, because I specifically
she was in shock.
I remembered you were saying, oh gosh, I feel so fat. I don't know. I don't like how I'm feeling. I don't think I can do this. And seeing you out, I was like, what?
Yeah, and I did a full turn on the stage and worked that dress. It was amazing. It was an amazing experience.
Right. Again, I am Kernisha Dolly.
And I'm Neesha Ramdhan.
Thank you so much for viewing our OMG interview.
Yes.
Once again, you can reach us on our business page, K Models Training School, that is on Facebook, or you can contact us at the phone numbers 318-8049 or 313-3103
or 738-0230.
Bye.
Bye.